Greetings. This is your brother Elder Blacklight. Now we're about to get into some history to show that the Caucasian Yakub grafted devil is Israel. Why his name is called Israel? Because unnaturally he was made, and since he's an unnatural, artificial kind of a man, that he's naturally against nature. So he's using biological warfare. We're going to show the history of him using biological warfare on himself and on everyone else. His soul is completely gone. He don't have a soul. Soul actually means the sun. That's the real name, or the beginning of the one of the terms used for the sun, soul. And it's quite ironic that he gets sunburned so easily. So without further ado, let's get into some of this history of using biological warfare. Now the reason why I'm doing this is to show you that we need to come off the plantation, separate ourselves, unless we be destroyed with him.
For centuries, mankind has been using the human body itself as a weapon. Biological weapons are invisible but deadly. The first known use is recorded in Hittite texts written more than 3,000 years ago, when victims of the plague were driven into enemy lands to spread their deadly germs. Ancient warriors were known to tip their arrows and spears with poison, animal feces and snake venom to infect their enemies' wounds. Hannibal of Carthage filled clay pots with poisonous snakes and launched them onto his opponent's ships, while the city of Hatra attacked the Roman army with pots containing scorpions. When the bubonic plague ravaged Europe during the Middle Ages, soldiers catapulted infected body parts and excrement over battlements during sieges. In later years, infected clothing was used for the same purpose. When Europeans established colonies around the world, they also unwittingly brought an avalanche of diseases which ravaged native peoples who had no immunity. Although this was unintentional, there is one recorded case of a plan for deliberate infection during the French and Indian War in 1763. A letter between two British officers details the possibility of handing out blankets infected with smallpox to Native Americans. There is no evidence that the plan was carried out, but if it had been, it was likely to have been effective. Native Americans were highly susceptible to European diseases, as they had not lived closely with domesticated animals. In the 20th century, the lethal disease anthrax was used very early on. Spread by spores rather than infected people, it was hidden in Russian stables by Scandinavian freedom fighters in 1916. Anthrax and the animal disease glanders were used against Allied livestock in the First World War. Despite the Geneva Convention of 1925 that prohibited the use of biological and chemical weapons, Germany and Japan carried out biological warfare experiments on prisoners during World War II and used biological weapons in China. In the 1940s, Japan bombed China with ceramic pots carrying fleas infected with bubonic plague, which resulted in outbreaks of the deadly disease. The Allied countries also launched research into biological weapons, working out ways to convert tularemia, anthrax, brucellosis and botulism toxin into weapons. British tests on Scotland's Grinnell Island left the area contaminated with anthrax for almost 50 years. The fear and paranoia that characterized the years of the Cold War saw many allegations of biological agents. During the Korean War, China and North Korea accused the United States of testing biological weapons and releasing disease-carrying insects against their forces. Declassified documents have revealed that the United States carried out widespread testing on human subjects at Fort Detrick during the 1950s, earning the Army camp the nickname Fort Doom. In a project known as Operation Whitecoat, authorities first used Army volunteers. When the men demanded to know what substances they were being exposed to, the government recruited Seventh-day Adventists who, as conscientious objectors, refused to be part of the military draft. In 1969, President Richard Nixon announced that the United States would no longer conduct research into offensive biological weapons, instead concentrating on preventing possible infections from biological warfare. In 2008, Bruce Ivins, a senior biodefense researcher at Fort Detrick, committed suicide after being informed the FBI would charge him with contributing to a series of anthrax attacks in 2001. 5 people died, and many more were infected when they opened letters carrying anthrax. The letters were mailed to senators and media organizations. After many years of investigation in which Ivins himself was involved as an anthrax expert, the FBI narrowed the search, suspecting that Ivins' motive in sending out the anthrax was to test a vaccine he was developing. Although the FBI closed the case following Ivins' death, others are not convinced that he committed the crime, or if he did, that he acted alone.
All right. Greetings. Now, brothers is getting their history mixed up with the Caucasians' history. Their history is a 6,000 year history. Tribe of Shabazz is the 50,000 year history, which in this book by Drusilla Dunjee Houston goes back into the Kushite, the ancient Kushite empire. And she got it sort of like in chronological order here. So she got listed first the ancient Kushite empire, then she got the old Ethiopia, then she got ancient Ethiopia, then she got the amazing civilization of Ethiopia, then on number 5 she got prehistoric Egypt, the land of wonders. See, so when y'all talk about Kemet, y'all missing the ancient Kushite empire, the old Ethiopian empire and its people. Now when we talk about Israel, we talking about that 6,000 history, 6,000 year history of the European Caucasian created by Yaqub, and when he came out the caves. Now in this illustration here, You see the pyramids already built. But this is just an illustration to let you know how mighty we were in ancient times. So in the last video, you saw that the European have always used nature as a weapon against his own self. Nature against nature. So he's a scientist and the God of this world. That's what makes him a God of this world. We're living up under his authority, up under his concept. Everything starts from the mind and is a concept. So his world is on its way out. He done outdid himself. And his world is on the way out. A new world is coming in. Soon as you wake up to yourself, soon as you get hip to yourself, soon as you get wise to yourself. And for those who want to be rulers, keep watching, keep listening, keep learning, keep absorbing the light, the black light of consciousness. Under the teachings of Master Farad given to the messenger Elijah Muhammad. Master Farad Muhammad. Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. It's 12 midnight. 12 midnight also means a new day. Yep. After 11 p.m. comes 12 a.m. Right? That's a new day. It is midnight. The darkest hours are before the dawn. It's black light. Sugar and sugar, salt is salt. If you didn't get off, it ain't my fault.